All right, everyone. Thank you all so very much for taking this most delightful trek with us. Today's installment is about Discovery's Season 4, Episode 2, aptly titled Anomaly. This is the only live show we offer because it is our flagship presentation. I'm honored to serve as your guest. My name is Jermaine Watson. Before we go any further, I wanted to take this time. I wanted to give you the time to like, follow, join, subscribe, comment, and share in whatever medium you're currently watching or listening to us. Later, I will be joined by my co host, William Walford. And also, we have some very special guests Robin Alyssa, Brian White, and Brandon Yan. When they arrive, they will introduce themselves to you all. Today's show is all about discovery. We're going to specifically cover last week's show, so no spoilers needed. Yes, today is Thursday. Yes, a new episode came out today, but we're going to cover last week's episode. Okay. And again, that is titled Anomaly. Also, this would be a great time for us to basically tell you about our upcoming shows. So earlier I said that this is our only live show, and that's true. It is our only live show. But what we've decided to do, because we've been having so much fun, is we have decided to pre-record some shows. So on Mondays, we have LGB Trek. Tuesdays are Tech Trek. Wednesdays are either What If Wednesdays or Fight for the Patriarchy Wednesdays. And what that means is on alternating weeks, one week you'll have What If Wednesdays, and on the other week you will have Fight the Patriarchy. These are awesome shows with awesome ideas, superb hosts, and spectacular guests. We will still have our Thursday live shows updating you about the most recent edition of Star Trek or other Trek happenings. But we will also add Newsflash Fridays and Section 31 Saturdays. These shows are sexy, sexy, sexy. I tell you, they're so sexy. We've already recorded some of the shows, and let me tell you, they are fun. We debate, and of course, we always follow Starfleet decorum. So make certain you have liked, followed, and subscribed, and make certain you get notified when we post. Now back to tonight's business. All right. So today, what we're going to do, as I said earlier, we are going to basically go over Anomaly. So Anomaly is the second episode of season 4. So first thing that I wanted to talk about is basically the revolving doors that we have going on within Discovery. And what I mean by revolving doors is basically we have a captain. What starts with Jarjo, right? And then later we get oh god, what was his name? I forgot his name already. We get him, who is from the Mirror Universe, and then also after him we get Pike from the Enterprise. And then we get Saru, and now we have Burnham. But guess what? In addition to the captain's chair, we also have the first officer's chair, right? Starts with Burnham, then goes to Saru, then goes to Tilly, and now back to Saru. All right, a lot going on. All right. I was supposed to have my my co-host. I was also supposed to have my guest. So basically, I'm just going to riff until they join me. I believe in starting on time. Start on time, end on time, all that other good stuff. All right. So the back and forth of this show is so unlike any other show that we've ever dealt with, right? So if you think about Star Trek: The Next Generation, there was never a change, except for a short change when Picard was basically assimilated, right? Short change there. There was a captain that came in. There was also a first officer that came in, right? But we went right back to what we knew and what we loved. DS9, there was never a change. Voyager, there was, outside of getting a new first officer, there was never a change with Voyager. William, thank you for joining us. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is William Walford. I'm 27 from Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm a huge Trek fan. For those of you that don't know me, also one of the video editors and co-host for our Trekkers Delight, done by where's he at? This way. Yep, Jermaine over here. Yeah, and yeah, Jermaine, I actually got a little surprise for you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually uploaded right there in the video clips. And I think you'll be in for a little bit of a surprise. I promise you. But anyway, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I like to start on time so that we can end on time and everyone can go back to their lovely lives. Look, see, we started off with two viewers. We had three. We just lost one, but it's okay. We're gonna get them back. What I was talking about was, I was talking about the revolving doors of captains and first officers, and I was basically just commenting on the fact that Discovery has its fair share of captains and first officers, and it's so unlike the world of Star Trek that we know, especially from the Next Generation,
Yeah,
DS9, even Voyager, right?
yeah.
So it's completely different. And so I just wanted to I want quickly get your thoughts on that.
Could you? Okay, I see it in a general sense. Can you like ask me the question like directly, like so that I can answer it kind of directly? Because it's like I could like talk about so many different generalizations that you just made as far as between captains and first officers. Because I can go into like, can you like ask me something?
So specifically, Discovery has lots of captains and first officers,
Hmm.
which is unlike other shows.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's like it definitely breaks the tradition as far as not if you can call it a tradition if you way it breaks the tradition in the sense of oh this Star Trek show has the captain and the first officer. Well, that's not always the case because I remember in another scenario there was Deep Space Nine, which started off as a commander. And honestly, you know what? Let me ask you this. Did Benjamin, oh, well, Kieran Reese, I guess you would consider the first officer if you really consider that. But even then, he still started off as a commander before he became captain. And if you follow Michael Burnham's character in Discovery, you'll know that if I'm correct, I believe she starts as commander and first officer as well. Well, he wasn't first officer, but he was commander. So she starts off as commander. Is that right? But at least that's what I think. So anyway.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last part again?
Michael Burnham started off as commander before becoming captain, just like Benjamin Sisko started off as commander before becoming captain.
Right.
Yeah, so like Deep Space Nine and TNG, Discovery are like the only ones that only two Star Trek shows that I know that like break the traditional cycle. Oh, this is the captain and this is the first officer. Like I mean, and Discovery just go all the way around with it. Like for a while, we had a mirror universe captain and didn't even know it. like, like, whoa! I was actually kind of hoping we see more of them. But yeah, I think that it definitely opens the door. It makes me wonder, like, if this is the case, what is the possibility of? We see what Picard is. Picard is basically, what happened 20 years later. But it makes me wonder, what's Section 31 going to be like? You know,
That's an
what's that gonna
excellent question.
what's that gonna be
Um,
like?
but let me take it back before we delve into Section 31. So this is what I gather. So in Enterprise, right? So with
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise, you have Archer. He
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to have, well, he wanted to have a first officer from Earth, but he ended up having T'Pol from Vulcan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with the original show, we first start off with Pike. There was a first officer, a female
Mm.
first officer. Ugh, I can't remember
Right.
her name
Right.
at the top of my head. And then we end up with Kirk and Spock as first officer. All right,
Right.
and so in my mind, what I'm thinking is this: I'm thinking. in the early days, things were chaotic, right? Because they were trying to find their footing. And what I mean by that is I'm talking about Star Trek, and not Star Trek, but Starfleet in general, right?
Mm,
And the further along you go in the show, you see, or I should say, the franchise, you see more stability, right?
right.
And so that kind of like adds to that, right? Okay, like in the beginning, there wasn't a whole lot of stability because they were trying to find their footing. Things were kind of loose, they were kind of fast, kind of frontier like, shoot first, ask questions later. Um, and that kind of goes into the Prime Directive. I think TNG like really explored the Prime Directive a little bit more than most other shows.
I think that TNG explored the Prime Directive. And it's like we kind of almost ignore Enterprise because they were just establishing the Prime Directive. But I would say that the Prime Directive was pushed in Voyager, because how do you apply it when you're quite literally in the middle of nowhere? You know, it's just like, and it's like both Janeway and Picard in their own way have said that they both have bended the Prime Directive, but never actually broke it. Even though it's up for debate, you know, it's really up for debate. So let me ask you this real quick. As far as like the stream
Oh
link,
no.
yeah. So we're trying to get everyone else on here, because trust me, we have a whole cheaper by the dozen family that is about to join here in just a minute. But yeah, while Jermaine is working on that, I would say that Voyager definitely pushed the Prime Directive a lot. And you really get to see that when you see the dynamic between Janeway and Captain Ransom, where you actually do see, hey, what's up, Brandon?
How you doing, folks?
Hey, hey, sorry. It took a minute. How did you find us?
Through the YouTube chat link.
Okay, okay.
Nothing else was working. So
Okay, because I was sending the link to like everyone else.
Hey
Like, okay,
guys, how's it going?
okay.
Finally here.
Guys, we were just conversing on like the compare and contrast, or at least what do you think? Which before we dive into our topics today, what show do you think pushed the boundaries, aside from Enterprise, pushed the boundaries of the Prime Directive the most?
Well, hmm, that really wasn't the real question. We were really
Oh,
talking
what was the
about.
question? I think 'cause we were talking about TNG for a minute. Like,
Well, yeah. We went on we started talking about something else. Um,
oh,
yeah, we were really talking about the revolving doors of captains and commanders
oh yeah, that's what we started.
on
Yeah.
Discovery, and then we got into another conversation which led us there. But what I want to do is I want to keep us on track. So we're 14 minutes in. Um, let's move on just a little bit, and I think this is going to like really be part of the main meat of what we talk about, especially as it relates to mental health issues for the
Yeah.
characters. Specifically,
Yeah.
I want to look at Book, Tilly, and even Detmer. They didn't talk a whole lot about Detmer uh, at all this season, but we know that she was going through something at the end of last season. And so I do want us to talk about that just for a little bit. But in terms of mental health issues of the characters, so we know that, look, Book lost his home world, he lost his family.
hmm
What first, let's try to put ourselves in his place. What do you think is going on in Book's mind right now? Let's start with Brian.
Well, like you said, he just lost his entire planet, and as much as I hate to reference JJ verse, when Spock lost his entire planet, he was even he, as half human, half Vulcan, was, and I quote, emotionally compromised. So I mean, if a somebody who has basically embraced logic can feel that amount of loss, what do you say about someone who is essentially empathic towards his entire planet? I mean, if you think about it, his species is essentially the Navi. They communicate with the plants and their entire planet as a whole. Well, he just lost his planet, so it's basically like losing a family member or something like that. So, and he, as far as I can tell, he hasn't really had enough time to process it at all. He's basically just been going on adrenaline and hate.
Instinct.
Yeah, instinct. Yeah, trying to make the best of whatever pieces he has left, and just such a profound loss, and he's just doing the best he can, trying to push it all inside and bottle it up. That's not good for anybody.
Yeah. Brandon.
Well, it really depends. My perspective. I just finished watching the most recent episode of Discovery as well, so
I haven't watched
it's
it.
kind of
I haven't watched it. I can't hear.
I haven't watched it either, so don't feel too bad.
okay. So we can't discuss it. Dang it!
No.
That's where I was gonna go.
No.
All right. Well, then I will isolate myself to last week's episode. So I agree with Brian. I agree with Brian in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it's not just about bottling it up. It's about doing whatever you have to do to survive. Anybody who, especially at this time where there's been a lot of loss of life in, the public and in the real world, anybody who's ever lost anything or anyone, regardless of what it's from, there's so much loss. And every single person who's lost someone knows what it is to just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and keep moving forward. You have to go to work.
Yes.
You have to do your job. You have to drive your car. You have to go get groceries. You have to take care of your other family and kids and, clean your house and make life has to go on. The whole phrase of life must go on. In Book's viewpoint, he lost everything except Burnham.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even really friends with anybody else on the crew. He's got Burnham. He lost everything and everyone and everything else that was part of his universe is just gone. I don't think anybody even alive today, even with the amount of loss that we've had with, diseases and infections and cancer, I don't think anybody can even come close to experiencing that kind of a loss. And then we talk about except
for Spock.
Except for Spock. Exactly.
But
Yes.
at the same time, sorry about that. But at the same time, going back to an episode of TNG, the one where Troy temporarily loses her empathic abilities. Remember that one?
Oh, that was a deep
That's
one.
true.
Her patient was basically doing the same thing. Her husband had just died and she wasn't dealing with it. She was essentially throwing herself into her work and hoping that would compensate for the loss by, taking her mind off of it.
Exactly.
And that's the same thing that Book is doing by trying to throw himself into whatever and not processing the loss, not allowing himself the time to grieve.
But at the same time, think about it. He really can't allow himself that time. His ship needs to be used. He's one of the best pilots that they've got for his ship. He understands how his ship functions. Discovery is still relatively new to this era. They don't understand completely how all their new tech works. They're still playing catch up. Book's lived in this world. So he's literally their lifeline. He's got to go in. He's got to get the data. His ship is the only thing that's there. So it's one of those things that, he needs to give himself some time, but they're on this crunch and he can't. I love the fact that he's showing the emotions he is, because how he's not completely falling apart into complete shambles and just locking himself in his quarters, I don't understand.
Well, I mean,
Hold
when
on a second. Let me get in there because there was a specific time where Burnham was talking to him, and he was just like, "I need you to leave, William."
Yeah.
That was, well, to me, that was a real moment. Like for me, I probably would have
Yeah.
like exploded. I would have cursed her out, but he was just like, "I need you to go."
Mhm.
Right. So in terms of like the real, and before you answer it, like think about your answer. For me, when something like that happened, when my mom died, I did the same thing, Brandon. I immersed myself into work. I did whatever I continued my life, and guess what? Maybe 9 months later, I basically fainted at work.
Yep.
I had to, my blood pressure was, and it must have been that way for months, didn't know it. My blood pressure was 220 over 180, like something crazy, like they were like, dude, you're supposed to be dead right now. And I was lucky, one of my fraternity brothers, he was just like, hey, wait, didn't your mom die recently? Had he not been my fraternity brother and made that connection, I
Yeah.
never would have gone to a doctor. And the doctor basically said, "Bro, you just need to cry."
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it definitely mourning loss is important.
But I mean, first of all, psychology is a bit of a hobby for me. But essentially, like that's basically going back to what used to be the 5 stages of grief. Now it's actually 7, but basically back then, you start out with just denial. This can't have happened. Then you move to anger, which like Jermaine was saying is like, yeah, he got mad, and but he basically went books basically went straight to depression at that point
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he couldn't handle it. He
William?
witnessed his entire planet gone.
It's like I hear everyone, and I totally agree because it's from the perspective, even with Spock, like in the Abrams in the Kelvin timeline, you can say that his mom died right in front of him,
Mhm.
like just right dead, just right there. Nice cameo on the actress, by the way. But
Mhm.
other than that, um, for me, I was the caregiver for my mother for 3 years, and in a way, it's a little bit weird because I it was in reverse for me. I was grieving while she was still here because I knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of like already passed like the first 2 stages, like already.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
I was a little bit ahead. I was, I'm still sad and all that stuff, but I was still hanging on to a lot. In my hometown, I was still hanging on to a lot, not accepting that I needed mental help, that I
Yeah.
needed it bad
But I
because
mean, it sounds
yeah.
to me almost like you were experiencing the 5 stages in reverse. You had
Oh,
already accepted it before it had happened, and then
before
you
it even
started
happened.
moving into depression and everything like that. So yeah.
Yeah. So when I saw that scene, and the dude, he lost, in a way, everything,
Hmm.
Mhm.
everything that he knew. Okay, everything that he knew. So now, in a sense, you could almost say that he is in the same boat as Burnham right now because
Hmm.
that entire ship of Discovery had to leave everything 900 years from now.
Exactly.
Mm, mm, mm.
To them, everyone and everything they knew is not only dead but dust.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look,
Like,
we could talk about book ad nauseum, but let's get some more in. Let's talk about Tilly. So Brandon, so Tilly, right? So basically towards the end, Tilly goes to Cobra, and she was just like, she kind of stumbles over it, but she's basically like, I need help.
Yeah, I need
Exactly.
professional help.
Yeah,
like
Brandon,
help.
exactly. So what
There's a
can you like put us in the frame of mind of what Tilly is probably dealing with at that time?
absolutely, absolutely. To do that properly, let's go back to the beginning of to the end of season 2.
Right.
She's a fresh cadet
Hmm.
put on a ship, had to go through a whole bunch of stuff and go through the whole mirror universe situation. And then we're in season 3, and we're talking about, or at the end of season, in season 2, we're talking about, the mirror universe. So she's exposed to something she's never experienced before. We're talking a fresh cadet, fresh out of the academy, and boom, she's thrown into this. Talk about utter chaos. The typical cadet spends 2 or 3 years on a ship before they're promoted to ensign, then lieutenant junior grade, lieutenant, lieutenant commander, commander. So we're talking
Yeah,
like
tell that to
years
Ensign
and
Kim.
years. But we're talking, and especially for someone who is already on the spectrum of sorts, I would say, because she's already sensitive. She
Yeah.
already understands a
Already.
lot more about what the rest of the crew is going through, and then she has to go through all of this near disaster, and
Mm-hmm.
then the ship leaves her timeline. So she's missing her friends, her family, all of the academy
There you
graduates she
go.
came up with. She's missing um her parents.
Mhm.
Oh
Think
man,
about that. Her grandparents, any siblings she might have had. We don't even
all
know
gone.
if she was an only child we don't know that much about her for
They
for
don't
us
even know
knowing
that
her.
she
We
left.
don't even talk about that. Yeah, she's
Right.
and literally that was classified by Starfleet, so she's just missing in action. So think about that. Her family doesn't know what happened.
Ooh, no
How is
closure.
she dealing with her family knowing she's just gone?
Mhm.
And then on top of that, she's transported into the future. Then there's all this new technology. So not only do you have to relearn basically what you went through the academy because
Mhm.
everything's changed.
Yep.
So you're talking about complete retraining your brain. And then on top of that, you're just pushed into event after event after event after event. She hasn't had time to cope with it. She
Not
hasn't
only
had
that, but
time to
now
grieve.
she has to worry about the burdens of command.
Exactly. She's a lieutenant. She's in charge of crew.
Mhm.
I'm surprised that she didn't have a psychotic break. I
Right?
mean, I'm
If I
wondering if I would.
can I ask you this question, Brandon?
Yeah.
Was it like an intentional move, or was it like for the actress or for the writers for Tilly to gain a little bit of weight? Because I've noticed that she's picked up some, and I'm all fine with it. But I wanted to know, was that like an actress thing, or was this like a result?
This
Because
is
for me,
pandemic. It's pandemic because
no,
Burnham
no, I
gained
mean,
weight
yeah,
too.
yeah, but the reason I'm asking the question is because I went through the exact thing where I was thrown into authoritative situations, promoted to this, doing this,
Mhm.
opening my own business, helping my own town, all this stuff, and then all the while I gained up to 316 pounds. Now I done lost 40 of it now, but I gained
I
because
think
and I wouldn't
I think
accept
everybody
that
that
he
gets in
could.
any kind of an emotional situation understands that the easiest way to calm a person's emotions, especially through stress or hardship or pain or loss or anything, is the most basic instinct among humanity, and that is to eat.
Yep. They
Okay,
call it comfort
Because
food for a reason.
exactly.
right,
Now,
Yeah.
was it intentional? Was it something the writers did? Did
right,
she
like
actually just gain weight? I don't really know. Honestly, I set that aside because the reality she's always been a little on the plus size.
yeah, she
So
has,
so I'm
yes.
not I'm really not, I'm going to chalk it up more towards by the season 4 of every single Star Trek episode of every single Star
People
Trek
gain weight.
series, they have started to loosen their belts a little bit by season
That's
4.
true.
So I
Okay.
kind of just
They've
chalk it
got
up
money
to
now. They've got money now.
exactly.
Then
I
you
kind
know.
of just chalked it up to they're used to the buffet tables and whatever. But it's a good look. But at the same time, like Jermaine said, every single crew member's kind of gained a little bit, so we
Yeah.
can't really just chalk it up to an emotional
Yeah.
stress. Or we
Speaking
could.
in strictly a psychophysiological sense, stress and anxiety has a detrimental effect on a person's metabolism.
It really does.
Yeah.
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 So
Yes.
you start to worry and everything like that. Your metabolism
Slows it
slows
down.
down to a crawl.
So,
Yeah.
guys, I wanted to talk about Detmer, but we got really into this conversation. So we're going to skip Detmer and we're going to move into the next segment of this. So we're going into segment 3. So specifically, we're going to be talking about Stamets and Book. And like they spent some time together on Book's ship, right? So we also know that both of them are able to use the spore drive on
Oh yeah.
Discovery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that right there gives them something in common right off the bat.
It does, but let me tell you this. So I don't remember which episode it was that we all did, but someone said that someone from Discovery is supposed to die. I don't know if that's true or not. However, what I would do is I would put my I don't know, my finger, my ring, whatever, and I will put my something
Your
in the
stance?
ring, whatever.
Okay.
Put your hat in the ring.
Put my
Oh,
hat in
hat,
the ring,
yeah.
and I would say that Stamets is going to die. Why would I say that? Because very rarely in Star Trek do you have two people able to do the same thing. Yes, you have your science officers in engineering and they work close together, but at the same time, they do different things. In this case, two people who can operate the spore drive, it's possible that they did this because, you know, at some point the two of them are going to be on, one person is going to be on a planet, another person, whatever. But I also think that it's quite possible that Stamets might die by the end of this season. What are your thoughts on that?
I
I
don't
give
think-
it to Saru. I give it to Saru on that one. I think he's gonna go.
You still think so?
I do.
I don't think they can kill Stamets, but I definitely think they could separate him from the crew, because I do think that's a good. I think there might be a twofold thing there. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt we're going to lose a primary cast member.
We're gonna
Let
lose
me-
someone.
Let me say something else too, because remember, like, I guess we all assumed that Stamets was the chief engineer, and then we find out he really wasn't the chief engineer.
He was
right?
the closest thing to it.
He was the closest thing to it, but now we know that there is definitely a chief engineer. Plus, Gray, that's the department that she works in. And quite often, that is also the department that Tilly works in. Do you
I
see
think-
where I'm going?
Mm-hmm.
I think
There's
you mean Adira, right?
Adira,
Sure.
yeah.
Adira, I'm
Adira.
sorry. I
Right,
don't know why I said that.
right. I think
Just my thoughts.
I think like what if when Gray gets his new body that it's Adira that goes.
Well, I mean, they might.
I don't see
they
that.
might leave
I don't see that as a
together.
possibility.
That's the only thing that I can consider. If
Yeah.
anybody's going to leave, if Stamets leaves, Doc's probably going to go with him.
Yeah, you can't really after season one you really can't
Yeah,
separate them
same
again.
thing with Gray and Adira. If one leaves, they're going to lose the other one too. But
I don't know.
long story short,
No.
I mean, I honestly couldn't tell you if we're going to lose one or who it might be, because at this point it's kind of an open book. You know,
No pun intended.
oh, you like what I did there?
But
We all pretty much safe and secure in saying the book ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Once
Our
again,
grudge.
once
Not
again,
going
if he goes, Burnham's
Then-
likely to go with him. Now, I will say this: if he goes and she doesn't, he's probably going to go off hunting for others of his kind, or going off to find himself, or some other kind of thing, trying to deal with the grief and process what happened to his planet.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon with Burnham around to, lick his wounds.
Okay,
so to speak.
what about one of the helmsmen?
well, and see, this is where you start talking. I know, Jermaine, you said let's skip Detmer, but I'm going to bring her into this. Okay, I like her attitude. I like her character, but one of the key things that happened this episode is Detmer was supposed to fly Book's ship,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a better pilot in his ship, which
Yeah.
tells me he'll be a better pilot for Discovery than Detmer is. He has a lifetime of experience. If anybody leaves, it's probably going to be her. My reason for saying that is multifold.
Owushamu, or whatever her name is, she not gonna like that.
I-
Owushamu?
I don't know her name.
I like-
Awumu.
Guys, he literally said Owushamu.
Yeah,
I just
I don't know her
want
name.
that to
I-
be clear.
Don't get me wrong. I like Detmer. I like what we've seen of her, but I want to make this very clear. We haven't seen much of her.
No.
Yeah.
what do we know? What do we know about Detmer? She had some kind of weird something other happen in season 2,
Yeah,
and
had a major physical and
had a major
psychological
physical
trauma.
and psychological trauma, and we have no idea what that was.
Yeah.
It was just she was having all kinds of weird distorted views and stuff and not being able to see and focus.
That
And
was
all of a
never
sudden
really,
season
really
3,
addressed.
Ended
no, it
up
wasn't. And
coming
then
out
season
with
3,
some
she's
sort of
perfectly
cybernetic
fine.
implant. Yeah.
Yeah,
We have
and we're
no
like,
idea
oh,
where that came
okay.
from or what it does.
And it was enhanced with modern technology
Yeah.
in season 3, and
It's
now season
definitely going to be a
4.
future storyline.
I hope, but they really haven't given her anything to do. She's a pilot that freaks out when she's asked to make maneuvers. She
Well, I mean,
panics.
last season.
She
Because
panics
when
at the
I think about
helm.
her
I mean,
character, it
Last
reminds
season.
me. It
Yeah,
reminds me. of what
and here's
Billy
the
is going
thing.
through right now.
Before the whatever event happened that gave her physical and psychological trauma, she was confident and almost to the
Yeah.
point of being cocky.
good.
You know, your typical pilot.
Mhm.
But after it happened, it's like her confidence was shattered, and we haven't come to terms with that. We don't even know what happened to shatter her confidence.
So does it stand to reason that it in there between season 3 and now 4, we're about to we probably have seen and will see different points where the crew is going through what Tilly is going through right now, addressing their trauma. Maybe,
I really hope so.
because not everyone is going to deal with it at the same time.
No.
If you recall, first episode, I told you that we're going to be talking about mental health, and
Mhm.
and somebody said, "No,
Yeah.
no, we're not. No, no, we're not."
I,
we
I,
are.
I said we can't do it for the whole season because
No, probably not.
That was
I really
before
hope
we
not,
knew
because
what
that's
we were
going to
gonna
drag
talk
the
about.
season down.
Yeah,
But
basically, if we start talking about mental health for the entire season, that's basically all we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because the entire crew, I mentioned this before, but the
Then
entire crew
they
is,
need a
is,
ship's
is seriously
counselor.
messed up. Yeah, where's Troy when you really need her? Right?
I mean, this
They
is the
phase
part
that
where you
position
actually
out.
do need Troy. Like this is a moment.
Yeah.
Like,
But guess what? Culber is not only an MD, but he's also a psychiatrist.
Yeah,
I mean,
basically,
that's
he's
fine.
the discovery
That's fine, and I'm
version
glad he has
of
that
of
education, but I didn't
Phlox.
get that vibe from him.
No, they said it. They said it on several episodes. But if you think about it, like he's always going around to people, he's talking to them, he's doing it in a friendly way. But
Mhm.
it is, you know what I'm saying? He is doing his job with them.
Yeah,
But
like
speaking of, let's move on. Let's move on. We're at
Okay.
38 minutes. We're at 38
Okay.
minutes. We could talk about all of this for hours and hours and hours. But
Okay, good.
personalism versus professionalism. So
Oh,
we're talking about,
Right.
like mental health. There are going to be some outbursts, right? People are
Mhm.
going to do some things that are outside of who and what they normally are. Brian,
Yep.
can you talk to us about personalism versus professionalism?
Well, and I mentioned this before to you guys. I know Burnham was dealing with that a lot in the episode because she was trying to figure out the juxtaposition between whether or not to be a captain towards Book or to be, a nurturer towards Book. And she was walking a fine line there. But I mean, I know that during the mission, she basically, had to be a captain. But there came a time when Saru walked up to her. She's like, "Yeah, you need to sort this out, and not Captain Burnham, but you need to figure this stuff out." So she basically, you know, private called him and was like, "Look, I know this is tough. We got to get through this. When we get back, I'll sit down and talk with you about all this stuff." But it's a very fine line between having to deal with the professionalism of being a captain, especially in front of other crew members, and basically, trying to be a nurturing, supportive, significant other to somebody who just lost their entire world, literally. And it's kind of a difficult thing to figure out as to what to be. I know I've found in some of my personal relationships sometimes you have to be sweet and tender and things of the nature. Sometimes you have to be a little forceful, to get people to understand what's going on. And it's not an easy line to walk sometimes, because you honestly don't know what's going to be the right time to be forceful, and when it's going to do more harm than good, and when it's time to be sweet and tender, and when that's not going to have any effect whatsoever. So you kind of have it's trial and error, basically. There's no owner's manual or anything like that to tell you how to do all this stuff.
Quite right. Your thoughts, William?
I echo everything that Brian just said, um, but I gotta admit, no, this is
I
no,
know,
no,
I'm messing around.
no, no. This is literally what I was thinking, and this
Mhm.
is like on subject, but totally not on subject. I was just imagining Esri Dax on the Discovery right now,
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, yeah.
a little bit.
like,
Um, I
like
still Troy is the not the prototype, but she is like what we think of when we think of a counselor.
Yeah,
Like honestly,
the
she's
model. Yeah,
the
the model.
original.
Yeah,
She's the OG. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Only
yeah.
because she was the first. It's just like
Well,
Spock. Spock.
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, well that's something that I really wanted to go on. It's like I understand that the doctor has this background in I'm sorry, psychology or
Yeah,
counseling.
yeah.
Okay.
So
It's kind of
yes,
one and the same, really.
it really
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
The difference is like he has a PhD, but because he's also an MD, he's a psychiatrist versus a
Psychiatrist.
psychologist.
Yeah, it's it's
Mhm.
Okay.
it's like
So
Phlox from Enterprise. He was a
okay.
doctor, a psychologist, a veterinarian, a dentist, basically everything that he needed to be. You know,
You
All
know,
in one.
yep.
and maybe I don't know if it was written this way or if it was an actor's choice. Now I remember all the way back him talking the talk and even walking the walk,
Mm.
but I personally didn't feel anything from that. Like I got more from Riker's rendition of Enterprise's Cook in the final episode than I did the Doctor in Discovery,
Hmm.
because it's just like, okay, if you are someone that I can talk to, I understand you just went through something, dying and coming back, Spock world, that's fine, but like, not saying your trauma trumps mine or mine or the other, but I have me personally, and I'm crazy over this guy. I am, but I never got that vibe from him
So
on
the
that.
neurotic, the person with the neurotic tendencies on that show happens to be his husband, right? So you see him dealing with his husband more than you see him dealing with everyone else on the show.
And
Um,
just a hint of narcissism, but that's
you're right. You're right.
Like I said, I am not feeling this. It's just like I
well,
know what he is, I know what he says, and he does a good job.
I
But
mean,
I
it's kind of
go
Also,
like
ahead.
remember there was
what
there was a
Brandon.
point on the show. I'm sorry, Brian. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's kind of like what me and Brandon were talking about off show a little bit ago. It's like a lot of these characters on Discovery are kind of difficult to get emotionally invested in.
They're
It,
very
it's
paper.
almost,
Yeah,
yeah,
They're
it's very
very
their
paper. They're two
characters are very
dimensional,
hollow. You
and
know,
it's sad. I want to get involved. I
yeah. I mean,
want to like them.
we
I
want to
want to get
I
like them.
attached.
do. I
But
do.
they're so two dimensional. They're either angry or they're sad, or they're friendly and then they're cold, or they're outgoing and then they're reserved. There's very little play with their character and getting to know them and understanding. Now, maybe it's because we're spoiled and we're used to the 26 episode season where you can take
Get,
4
get to
episodes to get to know someone before you jump into their 4 episode past and their 10 episode legacy. I don't know, but I just
Let
feel
me
like
ask you a question, and I don't want to derail the conversation,
no, you're fine.
but because we're talking about it, let's look at Picard, because in a lot of
Mhm.
ways that show is similar to this show in that there's there's an arc, right? And so we're able to see new characters on Picard, are there like the new characters in Picard? Were you able
Mhm.
to develop a feeling? Um,
I, I have.
okay, okay,
I have.
let's hear about it. Let's hear about it.
Now, first, the
What,
first thing, I
yeah, yeah.
do
Go ahead, Brian.
love how in Discovery they did actually, make a nod to Picard when they were
Agreed.
talking about Gray's body.
It's like
I
they
thought
gave
that was really cool.
they
But,
gave a hint to how it ends. They
Yeah.
gave a hint.
Mhm.
So, because
but
Yeah.
continue.
okay, so there was one. Well, I love them all. Okay, I did, and to me, they were very lovable characters, and I love except how they killed some of them. But the one that but I did not crack my first tear until I call him Picard's Romulan son. He's not. Who's the kid?
Not Icha. What is his name?
Not
God.
Icha. The kid. The kid that
Whatever
I
his
don't
name
remember
is.
his name.
Doesn't he
but
start with an
apparently-
L?
the long hair.
Yeah, I don't remember his
I gotta
name,
look-
but
I'm
apparently
gonna
they
look it up
decided
right
to add
now.
a ninja to Star
I
Trek.
totally
so.
date him now. Like
Go ahead on him, the
So,
Romulan
him-
kid.
the kid. That's
Mhm.
part of this same thing that Burnham's mother is a part of, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, when he
Candor, whatever.
something like that. When he broke down at the end of that show, I lost it. I lost it. I lost it. And that was the first time I cried. Well, the first time I cried was like tears of joy just for seeing Picard in general, like,
Right.
Elnor.
I had Elnor.
Elnor.
I had no emotional connection to him, but I did have an emotional connection to the neurotic on the show. The woman, the one that kept calling him JL.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
like
one
Jake.
that vapes and
Yeah,
all,
and she's a drunk and her kid has
Mhm.
nothing to do with her. Like that was the
Yeah,
one that I
that
like.
felt more real to me than pretty much anything Discovery had to offer at the time.
If I can make this brief connection before I let Jermaine take us to the next segment,
Mhm.
I looked forward between Discovery and Picard. I just wanted to make this connection. I looked forward to the conversation between Stamets and Book the same way I looked forward to the conversation between Picard and Seven.
that we
And
never really got.
That's a fair
We never
point,
really got that conversation.
right?
Between
What are you
Picard
talking
and
about?
Seven.
Picard?
Yeah.
Yeah. They spoke.
Well,
Yeah,
they did,
but they acknowledged each other. That was
that's
basically
exactly
about
what
it.
I mean.
And
Yeah,
we're about
it
to
was.
see more in season 2. But I'm
hopefully.
glad
Let's
that
really
they
hope,
actually
yeah.
spoke versus the graphic novels I keep reading every night. So
Well, look, we're at the 48-minute mark. We don't have much time, so look, we're gonna move to our final segment. Look, by design, this segment, well, for some reason I gave it 12 minutes, but we can't spend that much time on this. So what I want us to do is I want us to have a character analysis of certain characters. First, it's just look, Bryce, he looks a whole lot like me. So, before there was a book, it was a Bryce. And so on on this episode, Anomaly, Bryce became a pivotal character. Brian, tell us what Bryce did and what were your thoughts about that? It's especially given what happened the first episode.
Well, as I was saying, I haven't seen like the most recent episode that just came out.
No, I'm talking about
But
episode
the
2.
previous
Yeah,
episode,
last week.
If memory serves, because I've slept since then, he had some sort of suggestion that basically was the linchpin of the whole thing. Like Saru actually like, hey, that was a good job, pat on the back and all. I don't remember exactly what it was because, like I said, I kind of
Well, basically, he
Wasn't
said
that
you
the
can.
tether?
Oh right, yeah, it was the surfing thing. Yeah,
Yeah, the wave. Yeah, the
Um,
wave. The waves. Yeah, the surf of the wave. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
So basically, he's like, yeah. So I did this thing, and this might help, and but yeah, I mean, he was basically being an actual crew member by offering suggestions, and that I will say this. That is one thing that I haven't really seen a lot on the bridge of Discovery, because everybody just seems content to follow Burnham's orders most of the time.
Uh-huh.
But
Oh, it was kind of like, I see your point. It's kind of like a callback to TNG, like
Yeah.
or even Voyager. Like someone random would like have an idea and they would just say it, and it wasn't the commanding officer who came up with all of the ideas.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as I can tell, he basically is like, okay, so this thing, it might work, and it's basically our only shot. So, might as well give it a try, and if it works, great, yay. I mean,
Yo, I'm sorry, I'm dying laughing because they're having a conversation on private chat and they are
But-
killing me.
but you're not wrong.
The black
Brandon.
one.
Yeah,
I
you're
had
not
to say
wrong,
it.
Brandon.
Sorry,
though.
I had to say it for Brandon. The black one.
I mean, it's not even that. I don't know who it.
I know.
It's taken me. It's taken me 4 seasons to figure out that Tilly's name is not
No, that
not
proves our point. That proves our point
Tylium or
about-
something. I'm like, what?
That
the
proves our
hell?
point about character development. If I don't remember your name, that means I don't.
Right.
Yeah, I have
It brings
no
me back to what I
attachment
was
to
saying
you.
earlier.
It's been
they're hard to get
we're in
emotionally
season 4.
attached to.
We're in season 4, and I don't know half of the crew. I don't know half of them.
Yeah.
I know Burnham. I know Tilly. I know Saru. I know
Saru.
Detmer.
Up
I know
until a couple of days
That's
ago,
it.
I
That's
didn't
it.
remember Adira's name.
Exactly.
I
I still have to be reminded
I
who
was
that
like-
is. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
exactly.
Even Jermaine.
Oh, that's
was
this
just like
person.
Gray, and I was like, Gray? No.
Yeah, who's Gray?
It's like, who are these people, and how are we supposed
And
to care?
had he not said Gray, I wouldn't even remember what his name was.
Right?
Here's
I
the
actually didn't
sad
remember
part.
him until he
Like,
mentioned.
who are these people? Like,
Yeah.
The sad part.
Like,
I
and there's
like-
it's
I
no
like
disrespect to
Stamets.
Discovery. There's no
No.
disrespect to Discovery, but it kind of like goes and improves the point that we were trying to make. If we don't know anything about you, well, we know a lot about it, but if we don't know enough to be emotionally invested in you, and that to the point where we don't know your name,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's a writing issue to me.
It really is. And
who
no
the
offense,
hell's
they can be
idea
written
was it
off
to
the
make this
show,
shit
and
10
it's not going
episodes
to kill
anyway?
me.
I never understood that. So I'm sorry.
Wait, stop. Y'all,
Bullshit.
please
I'm
stop.
saying-
There are like 3 different conversations going on all at once.
episode is just wrong. It is blasphemy.
Stop.
It is chaotic. It is like I will get Kalis on their asses because this is just wrong. This is wrong. Like, whose idea was it to make it 10 episodes for Picard, for Lower Decks, for Discovery? This is some cockamamie bullshit. I'm sorry. This is just wrong. I didn't know. Like that's like me putting $2 of gas in my car to drive around the corner and I run out of gas before I can even get to know my car. Like that don't make no sense. I'm
But
sorry.
yo, Owushamu, what did you think about Owushamu?
That's the other dreadlock gal, right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
She's the one that sits at ops.
Yeah, she's off.
I don't
I'm
know
like-
her name. It's Owushamu.
Who they are. Usually there are 7 solid characters in every Trek show. In Discovery, there's like a solid 15. And I'm like, who's that Asian guy?
It's a lot of
Well,
redundancy,
They
y'all. It's a
changed
lot of
positions.
redundancy.
We have no idea who's going to be up on what's
did-
that phrase? Who's on deck, right?
I
We have
need
no
to
idea
know.
who's going to be
Look,
on deck.
I didn't
next.
even know
Who's
that
that security
first,
officer?
yeah.
I didn't even know they had an android on it until she died in the last season.
Exactly.
I knew that. I knew
Right.
that. I didn't know her
Who are you?
name, but I knew that.
Now-
I knew all of
now-
that. I pay
now-
attention to
now-
stuff like that.
Now I'll say this because we got 6 minutes left. I was emotionally invested in that one chick who decided to stay behind in the last season
No rule.
because I was familiar with her species from TNG.
Okay.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I know you, okay, and
Yeah.
I can see why you would want to stay, like because we know about your people, we know about their initial beliefs, and we know about the current beliefs, and we know about the burn and correlation and all that, and then like other species. So that even though it wasn't much, it gave me something to
Yeah.
make me miss her. Just like I was emotionally invested, which I'm pretty sure we can all say that for Emperor Jojo. Like in the last season, how could you not be? How could you?
You
not be?
weren't? Oh
I
my
was.
god!
I never liked her character.
It was kind of
never
flat to
liked
me.
her.
But here's the thing: you got to know her character enough to make a decision whether you liked
Yes.
her or not.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now,
in an
I'd have
odd,
to
crazy
say
way,
that-
I was glad to see her go.
Yeah,
That's where I was at.
I think it was perfect. I think her timing was perfect. The timing in which she left it was perfect. And let me tell you why. For someone like me, who I delighted in the fact that Deep Space Nine was so dark, right? Because I got to see a different side of the Federation. Jar Jar for me represented the dark side of Federation, right? So much so that she was part of the mirror universe, right? So, and what they did towards the end was they saw that she actually did change, right? One of those shows, it reminded us that she's changing, right? She made different decisions. And so when and if a Section 31 show comes along, I'm ready for it. What are y'all talking about? So dark, they had a black cat. You see? Y'all need to read these private chats.
But then they wouldn't be private, would they? But
I
but
do
no,
it
like
for
I
the meme
said,
reactions. I do it for the meme reactions.
as far as being see Giorgio, she wasn't dark being Starfleet. Lorca was dark being Starfleet. Giorgio was just dark.
I liked Lorca's character.
Yeah.
See-
But he was at least trying to play the
The
he
role.
was playing captain on TV, as it were.
Is it sad that I was more attached to his character than anybody else in the crew?
No,
I thought we were
And
going
when
to
they
see him come
wrote
back.
him off,
I thought he was going to come back.
when they
I did
wrote
too,
him
I won't
off,
lie.
I'm just like, well, there goes my only attachment to this. I know I'm supposed to be attached to Burnham. I can't stand her. I absolutely
for me
can't.
the
I-
connection is Tilly, because Tilly kind of reminds me of Barkley from TNG, and I always liked his character.
I always thought it was
I would-
Stamets.
I always thought Adira was more of Barkley because she clumsy as hell. Their was clumsy as hell.
Well, I
Like,
mean,
all over the
Barkley
place.
had
All of
all
us have a
these
different opinion.
issues, like the hollow addiction. He was always anxious, nervous as all hell, didn't, want to talk to anybody. And Tilly seems like the only crew member that really legitimately freaks out over stuff. Because I mean, she gets emotionally invested in whatever she's doing. Everybody else, it's just a job.
I think they all do. I think they show it in different ways.
It's
Yeah,
very
honestly.
possible.
but
I'm
Tilly,
actually
to
attached
me
to
seems
Saru.
more real than a lot of the other.
I can
characters
see you
does.
being attached to
I'm
Saru.
attached to Saru. That's who I like because he's torn between Starfleet and his people.
Right.
That's really
Oh.
what gets me right now.
I don't know who I'm attached to because it's like I don't want to give a typical answer like, oh, I'm attached to Michael Burnham for obvious reasons. Because I'm trying not to do that. I would say that if I were attached to anybody, I am right now taking a oh Jesus, probably Stamets.
I hate his character. I absolutely hate his character. I want him to die.
I didn't write the damn thing. Okay,
I'm attached to Book's cat. Does that count?
Yeah, Book's cat. Thank you. I'll take that one.
You cannot be Star Trek without a pet. You cannot be Star Trek without a pet. Every Star Trek show, I believe, has a pet somewhere.
Yeah, Picard had Livingston. Archer had Porthos.
Oh, yeah.
Who the hell is Livingston?
The fish.
The lionfish.
The fish.
Yeah.
Fish.
How do you not remember the fish?
I thought we were going on I mean, that's cool, but I was thinking Spot, like Data's cat, like.
Well, I mean, I'm talking just the captain's pets, to be honest.
Captain's pets. Oh, see, now that's the topic. Okay, because I know
Different topic for a different.
Yeah.
Jermaine,
We got to.
Let me ask you this
Quickly.
question. Did you play Marie's video yet?
Oh Lord, I did not. Yo, okay,
it,
so
edited.
I was supposed to. This is actually a good outro too. So look, quickly, we're gonna watch this, and then we're gonna do our outro.
Click the one I just uploaded.
Hi, everybody. I am Marie Brownhill, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here for the live stream, so you get me in absentia. One of the things I really want to talk about with respect to this particular episode is that Anomaly is largely about grief, and it presents two competing visions of how to handle grief. The first is how Book isolates himself, and all the other characters tend to isolate themselves with respect to their grief, because grief is a profoundly isolating experience. Saru is right. Each one of us has to walk through our experience of grief independently.
Are you streaming?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you kidding me? I'm sitting here watching this whole thing. Okay, guys, we officially have our first recorded blooper. Yeah. All right. Marie, take it away, girl.
Okay, can't go any further. Yeah, we're gonna get better with the audio. That's actually the only video, William, that I see. So let's close this out. This ends our third live episode of Trekkers Delight Programming. Next week, we are going to provide you all with additional content. Yes, we hope you enjoy. We'll enjoy Mondays, LGB Trek. Tech Tuesdays, Wednesdays, What If Wednesdays, and Fight the Patriarchy. Of course, Thursdays live show with all of us. Fridays, Newsflash Friday, and our Section 31 Saturdays. We talked about Section 31 a lot today. Please like, follow, subscribe, add, comment, and share to stay delighted in Trek. As always, I'm Jermaine Watson, and thank you for listening or watching Trekkers Delight. May you have peace and long life.
Kapla.